time for Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beem Weeks, author, producer, and marketing monster for independent multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gies, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Voice of Indie podcast, show number 36. I am your host tonight, as usual, Beem Weeks, and with me is my co-host, Mr. Stephen Gies. How you doing tonight, Stephen?
I'm doing fine and dandy, and how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain. It's been a good day up here.
Yeah, it's been beautiful down here in Alabama. It's been running around 80 degrees and sunny every day, although the rains are moving in tonight. I know last night was so beautiful. I went out on the deck at about probably 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that, and just went out there to take a break and sit for a minute. And I saw a big one of those Luna moths, 5-inch body long, come out of its cocoon and climbed up on the railing and sat there and was drying itself out so it could unfurl its wings. And then I saw a little 2-inch singing tree frog eyeing him. And I was sitting there looking at him thinking, yeah, that's 2.5 times the size of that frog. That hungry frog, he's just going to have to give up on that one. Well, he didn't. He wound up grabbing the back end of that thing. And then I, at a time when I'm going on a vacation next week, and my list of things I have to do before I leave is longer than the amount of time I have to do them, but I still spent 3 hours out there, a little over 3 hours out there last night, shooting video of a frog trying to get a 5-inch mouth down into its 2-inch body. And I'm telling you, by the time I gave up at 4:30 in the morning, he was down to just the front legs and head sticking out of his mouth. So well, that has to be a metaphor for something. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely a way to spend my evening without getting anything constructive done.
That's the metaphor for life slowly eating somebody alive. Yeah, that's just a sign of spring. And up here, we had the most beautiful spring day today that we've had so far this young spring. We hit 81, first time we hit 80 since last year, and sunshine, blue skies, nice warm breeze. Oh, just a beautiful, beautiful day. And when I see those blue skies and the warm weather, man, that puts a pep in my step, and I'm good to go.
Okay, listeners, we're taking phone calls today so that you can talk directly to our guest or talk to us and ask a question, leave a comment, make threats, whatever it is that you want to do. Just call in 516-453-9902. That's 516-453-9902.
And if you would like to leave a question or a comment for us on Twitter, just use the hashtag Fresh Ink Group. That's hashtag Fresh Ink Group. That'll come across our feed. We'll see it, and we will read your question or your comment. So there you go.
Now, for most of our regular listeners, you've been getting a weekly announcement if you're on our newsletter mailing list. And if you're not, you need to go over there and subscribe. Beem will tell you how in a minute. But the weekly announcement where we tell you that the podcast is tonight includes the link to the show. So if you get that email and you want to listen to the show, just hang on to the email until showtime and just click on the link, and then you're in. It's quick and simple. But as of this week, our young marketing executive, Sam, is starting to add a lot more stuff into those announcements. So we'll have a book trailer or two, announcements about new books coming out from Fresh Ink Group that week, maybe a little author profile. And then sometime in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start attaching free stories and other kinds of shorts to those emails as well. Ooh. So there's a lot of reasons to get over there and subscribe, not just learn about the podcasts each week. Now, how do they do that, Beem?
They go to subscribe to the newsletter, go to freshinkgroup.com. On the homepage there, scroll to the bottom center of the page, and it's right there. Just click, follow the link, fill out the thing, boom, you're good to go.
I'd like to say we'll send you $100 for subscribing, but that's not going to happen, so there's no point in even saying it. Now, when you get through listening to a show, if you am I dropping out? We have a technical problem with Blog Talk Radio every now and then, but we try to work our way around it. What I started to say was if you missed the show or if you did enjoy tonight's show and want to hear it again, or you just want to tell others to go check it out, we archive these shows in 5 places. You go to freshinkgroup.com. There's a podcast tab right there on the home page. You go over there, you'll find all of these. You can also go to each of your hosts' individual author websites, which is beemweeks.com and stephengs.com. Each of those has a podcast tab. The big place is YouTube. Go over to YouTube and search for the Fresh Ink Group channel. Just type in Fresh Ink Group and it'll take you there, where, by the way, we are up to 117 subscribers the last I looked, so that number is continuing to grow. But you will find all of our podcasts there, as along with book trailers and some audio book shorts and some things like that. And we are also on Spotify. So look for us over on Spotify. Now,
Can you hear me?
We hear you now, Beem.
Okay, so I had to call in. Apparently there was a disruption in my internet, and but everything's still on. My way to talk through my computer's down. So
okay, well, Gwen and I also both dropped out. All 3 of us dropped. So
I saw that.
Okay, so hopefully we still have some audience left out there. I just covered the archives, and I was just mentioning that we have some guests lined up for the next 5 weeks. So get yourself all worked up and excited about this. Next week, we're going to have B.A. Johnson, the author of the children's book, Sassy Discovers the AME Church. And then the week after that, we're going to have Beem as the solo podcast host, because I'm going to be out on the West Coast that day and not really in a good position to do some co-hosting. So he's going to wing this one, and he's going to have the Tippins, father and son, Ron and Zach, who are the band Wide Track. We had them as one of our first guests on this podcast. They have some new music out, some new things to say, so Beem is going to talk to them. The week after that, on the 28th, we have Kanoi K, a Hawaiian woman who spent a long, beautiful career traveling the world with her family, putting on a Polynesian review show, and she took lots of pictures with rich and famous people and has stories to tell and has put it all in a book, which we are publishing this week. Week after that, May 5th, we have Phil Lippert, author of Crimes and the People Who Commit Them. He's the fellow we've mentioned previously who spent 42 years in prison with a little break in the middle when he escaped and was on the lam for 5 years. And he's written a whole collection of short stories that come out of his experiences talking to other prisoners and hearing their stories. And then finally, on May 12th, 5 weeks from now, we have Robert G. Williscroft, author of science fiction series, the Mac McDowell Mission Adventure Cold War Thriller series, and children's book, and some other stuff as well. So we're going to have Robert G. Williscroft on May 12th. Take a note, mark your calendar, get excited, tell everybody you know, and we look forward to hearing you call in during those shows.
And, yeah, definitely. We got a whole lot of really good guests coming up. Tonight's guest is a repeat performer here, a repeat guest. It is author Gwen M. Plano. Growing up in Southern California, Gwen M. Plano loved learning, and she loved imagining stories, some grandly epic, all personal and heartfelt. She taught and served in universities across the United States and in Japan, then retired and focused again on her story. Her first book, Letting Go into Perfect Love, is an award-winning memoir recounting some of her struggles in life while providing insight into the healing process. Gwen shifted to fiction after this first book and joined forces with acclaimed author John W. Howell in writing a thriller, The Contract, Between Heaven and Earth. Its sequel, The Choice, The Unexpected Heroes, soon followed, this time a solo effort. The culmination, A New Beginning, is the third book of the series. Gwen lives in the Midwest with her husband, traveling and writing, sharing those stories only she can imagine. So, welcome to the show, Gwen.
Hi, Gwen.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome back, we should say.
Well, thank you very much.
So, how are you doing tonight?
How am I doing? I'm doing great. We had a rainstorm this afternoon, and it's all cleared. And you know what it's like after a rainstorm. It's just kind of magical. So it's beautiful here.
Okay.
Boy, if you go out and face east, you might catch a rainbow.
We see plenty here, yes.
Now, Gwen, as you know, and this is one of those as you know, Bobs, that you're not supposed to put in stories, but as you know, the reason we've invited you back so quickly is because we are republishing your memoir, and it just came out this week. In fact, it's available every place I've looked except Amazon. We're looking to have that up probably by sometime later in the day tomorrow once we solve all of our problems with Amazon. But your memoir, Letting Go Into Perfect Love, a new Fresh Ink Group edition, is now out as of this week, and we wanted to have you back to talk about that, talk about anything else you want to, and see if we can get some book orders going as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Did you want me to share a bit about the story or how and why it got written?
Sure. Yeah.
Whatever. Well, first of all, I'll tell you a little bit. When I was a child and I grew up on a farm, as you've already explained, my mom had given me at one point a diary. And this was a big deal because we didn't have such things in our house. But I started writing in it. She must have seen my interest in reading and writing, and she nevertheless gave this to me. And over the years, what happened is the diary became a journal, and I had stacks and stacks. I probably had a good 20 or so of these journals that I collected through the years. And I would write, every day I'd be writing basically a correspondence with God, asking a help situation or that, and talking about my present circumstance, whatever it was. And I did this as a way of trying to understand life. So after I retired from, 30 years in higher education, I set these journals on my floor. I literally put them year after year after year and had the whole floor lined with them and started to go through them. I knew I had to write. And I want to say at the outset, I did not write to talk about my particular circumstances. That was not the reason for me writing. The reason for me to write was to go much deeper, to talk about the universal journey where each of us are on, fundamentally to love. And my circumstances, which involve domestic violence, certainly, garnered all of those feelings of desolation, despair, shame, all of those kinds of feelings. But I personally believe those are universal feelings. I think no matter what it is in life that has been, thrown at us one way or another, we face those hard emotions, ones we never want to face. And what I tried to do in my book really was to use my experience as a simple way of as offering an example to get to actually the underlying truth that we're to learn from each of these experiences, no matter how hard they might be. And so I was trying to reach, and it seems I was successful to a degree because the reviews reveal that, I was trying to reach people in all walks of life and in all backgrounds, because everybody's known sorrows. I mean, it's a familiar kind of experience. So just as a little backdrop, what I was writing about in terms of domestic violence is not uncommon. I wasn't an unusual person. 1 in 3 women experience it, but 1 in 4 men experience domestic violence. And just to give you a few more stats on that, every year, over 3 million incidences are reported. And there's an estimated over 10 million. So here you have a situation with many, many, many women and men who have experienced violence. So even though that is in my book, I don't focus there other than the story that I'm trying to carry through to get to the heart of it. And frankly, the heart comes down to forgiveness. And
yeah, this could have, as you're telling it, this could have been a horror story, and what you've created was a pathway to show how you grew to a place of peace.
And you know what? I'm very glad you said that, because I knew that choice. Because if you just want to dig into all the really ugly things, you would have a horror story. But I couldn't write that, and I would never write that, because the focus fundamentally wasn't me. It's a memoir, yes, and so I'm sort of the living example or whatever that's carrying the story through, but that's not what it's about. Because through life, what I learned was what the heart of forgiveness is. And that was the big learning for me, and that's what I wanted to share, because, we kind of think, at least in my upbringing, and I had a Baptist father and a Catholic mother, so
wow.
in my,
wow.
I know, I grew up with diversity. But
cats and dogs.
I know. So when you have two very strong religious traditions and forgiveness is part of it, I grew up thinking forgiveness was just a matter of saying, I forgive you. But it doesn't believe anymore. I actually believe forgiveness is a process of disentangling the heart, of disentangling the heart of all the weighty stuff of life. And through that process, we let go into love. And that's why I entitled the book that way, Letting Go into Perfect Love.
Perfect sense.
That is how I see life. And through that whole process, which I call forgiveness, that process is how we recover who we are. What I tried to capture in the book, to make it enough of examples that were compelling, but bringing it to a conclusion that is just what I'm trying to explain now. And I can never see myself as a victim. I mean, I can say very honestly, in the past I was victimized, but I was part of the victim. I was partly the person who was victimizing because I had not gotten to a point where I could see that I needed to disentangle my heart. Each person has an active role, So covering of self through forgiveness and letting go into perfect love. That's kind of where it goes. And I'm so happy that it's being republished through Fresh Ink Group. This is perfect.
Well, we are very proud to have it. And that difference that you're talking about, we made a book trailer for it, and we wound up doing 2 drafts of that book trailer because the first one, it's kind of hard to visualize, the path to peace and all that because, where do you go get a shot of that? They don't really exist very well. So our first draft of the video, we were showing a lot of the horror side of it in order to get people's attention, but that didn't quite capture your path to peace thing. So we wound up revising that video and changing some of the shots and trying to do, we hope at least try to do a better job capturing that you were finding your way out, finding that path to peace. And we think we did a fairly good job with it. And if the audience doesn't mind, we'll play the audio track from that trailer right now and urge you to, at your leisure, go over to YouTube sometime and watch the actual video that goes with this commercial.
Okay, so here's the thing. I could push this button and it plays and we're good, but this is telling me I'm not connected. So if I push this button and it doesn't work, just keep talking and I'll open up another tab, and we'll get it taken care of.
We'll make this work one way or another.
Exactly. So let's give it a try.
Inspiring and unforgettable, Letting Go into Perfect Love is a riveting account of a journey through the terror of domestic violence to a faith that transforms all. As a college administrator, Gwen M. Plano lived her professional life in a highly visible and accountable space. But as a wife and mother behind closed doors, she and her family experienced unpredictable threat. Every 9 seconds in the United States, a woman is assaulted or beaten. But to Gwen, this was her secret. It was her shame. Alternately, heart-wrenching and joyful, this is a story of triumph over adversity. One woman's uplifting account of learning how to forgive the unforgivable, recover her sense of self, bring healing into her family, and honor the journey home. Accompanied by glimpses of celestial beings, Gwen charts a path through sorrow to joy, and ultimately writes of the one perfect love we all seek. Gwen's story is heartbreakingly familiar. It provides insight into the phenomenon of domestic violence. Understanding that murky world may provide the reader with the skills to help his or her sister or friend or neighbor. Whether victim or friend, readers will be inspired by the author's courage. Letting Go into Perfect Love by Gwen M. Plano is available now as a fresh ink group edition in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook editions. The Audible audiobook edition is also available at Amazon. Order your copy now, and you may see your own challenges a little differently.
Now, just a reminder, the Amazon editions, it'll probably be about tomorrow or so before they appear. And if you're looking at the books and you're not sure what the difference is, the original edition has 2 separate wings on the cover. And we had the Fresh Ink Group artist, digital artist, paint a new set of wings, a little more colorful and fuller, and then put a glow between them so that they don't look like they're 2 separate wings as much as one thing like a butterfly that glows or something like that. So look for that difference. Give it a day or two if you only buy from Amazon. And with a little bit of luck, you'll be able to enjoy Gwen's memoir and share it with the people you care about.
Yeah. So now, Gwen, the whole writing process, you kept journals?
I did.
Over the years?
Yeah. Very
okay.
nice.
So
that's what you had stacked on the floor?
Oh, yeah. And I went to a number of workshops on journaling. I was in an environment, this was when I was back east, where they had these workshops. So I did that. I went to training sessions. I went to private sessions too. So it was a type, journaling as a type of self-realization, self-awareness, type of processing of life. And so I did it quite seriously.
Okay. So do you still keep journals?
I don't actually. What I do at times is I will write something down, and I have notebooks, but not in the format of the journaling I used to do. This is more that, even like a short poem, a short reflection, or an insight, then I write it down.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, I know when we first talked about doing this republication, you were having a kind of a minor issue with your other publisher, and were looking for some options and alternatives, and finally you decided to bring it to Fresh Ink Group and do a new edition. In the process, did you also update any of the content, add anything to it, or clean up any things?
I did, actually. I changed a few things, and nothing much, I have to admit. But I did make a number of changes, and I appreciated being able to do so. And it was also interesting, even at this stage, looking back to when I wrote it, I hold it with a lot of respect because, and I hold this with respect for anyone who does a memoir, who does it from the point of view of healing what has been, whatever it is. So looking through it, I realized, my goodness, how much has changed. How much has changed. It's rather notable. And when I was going through it and actually writing it, the pieces came together in my life. You start to see a little differently, because when you've got the separation of time and then you've had the chance for the healing to occur, then when you're going back, you're seeing things in a way that you just didn't see before, and you bring respect into the situation and a kind of love or tenderness. So it was a very healing process.
Did you find that it was I'm trying to come up with the words. Did you feel a little trepidation about going back into that content again? I mean, was it like an eagerness, let's go in here and update this, or was it like, I'm going to have to get in there and look at some things again and think about some things and face some stuff that you have found the path away from, but at the back end of the path, things are always still there.
Yeah, scabs. Did it feel like peeling scabs again?
Yeah.
No, not at all. What it felt like was, and I think a lot of writers feel this, when you go back to your first book that you've written, you realize, well, I could have said it better. I think all of us feel that about our writing. If we go back and look at our phraseology or choice of words here or there, that's the kind of thing I felt. But I felt none of the things like scabs, like you said, Beem. No, I didn't feel any of that. About it. So it told me this is part of my life, that the part that's good, the part that's of the journey that taught me how to honestly forgive, how to honestly embrace love. That part is the gift for me, and I've learned it. So when I'm paging through it, it's like I'm paging through something, a historical document, something like that. It's past tense,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. We do have a caller, so you guys want to take a call?
Sure.
Call away.
All right. Hello, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from?
It's Mary Adler, and I'm calling from California.
Hi, Mary.
Hi. Hi, Mary.
Oh, my goodness.
Hi, Gwen. How are you?
Oh, I am so delighted to hear from you, Mary. I am fine, thank you.
Well, I wanted to make a comment about your book, which I really loved when I read it, which was a very long time ago, it feels now. But I wanted to tell you that I never read memoirs because the little bits that I had picked up there was too much just self kind of wallowing in pain and things that happened, and I don't have a whole lot of sympathy, which sounds harsh, but I have admiration for people who go through something and learn from it and give up the pain associated with it, rather than carrying that pain through their lives and having it affect everything they do and everyone they meet and all their relationships and et cetera. And the reason I read the book was because you and I were both new authors for that publisher, and I read it because I liked you, what I had known of you, and I thought, well, I'll read this and see what it's like, and if it's awful, I don't have to say I ever read it. So, but I did read it, and I was really inspired by it, and it was so uplifting to me, and I so admired the way that you turned that horrible experience into a way of finding a bigger love. and of forgiveness. And I just wanted to tell you that. I was so impressed by it and so impressed by your telling of your story. And I do think that it's the kind of book that will help other people if they read it. It's not just, oh, me, oh, my, this was so bad, ay, ay, ay. You can do something about your life. You can learn from your life. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Well, you couldn't have told me anything more powerful, Mary. You're just an angel to tell me this. It brings me to tears. My goodness, that means I actually was able to do what I had hoped to do. So thank you very, very much.
That's wonderfully insightful, and it's the impression that I get too. A lot of these memoirs that are about overcoming something or triumphing, over adversity, as it were, they're almost bragging in tone. But the tone from you, Gwen, in Letting Go into Perfect Love, it's all empathy. It's kind of like, this is the journey, here's my path, but I want you all to go with me because you might need to make this journey too, or you might need to find your own path or whatever. So everything about it, just that empathy comes through. You're talking to readers as if we're all in this together. We're all part of this same big picture. And that really strikes me. And I think that's one of the things Mary was also getting at in her comment just now.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think a lot of that, kind of piggybacking off of what Stephen just said, is you're not just telling your own story. You're telling many other people's stories that you don't realize it, but there are other people that are going to read that and say, well, that's my story too.
Yeah, or could be my story too, which is very important. It's never preachy. It's never telling people what to do or saying be like me. It's okay. I found a way. Let me show you what I've accomplished, what I'm still accomplishing. Come along for the ride. I like that kind of memoir.
Do you know, one time I saw this psychologist and she asked me what I wanted to achieve, and I said, I don't want to repeat any of this again. I want to move forward. And she just kind of smiled and says, well, that is good. So, but I knew even then when I was stuck, before I understood about the journey to forgiveness and the journey of letting go, before I understood that, she saw that I was ready. And I often think back to her because she got what I was trying to do and then helped me to take those steps. No, I think we're all, you're right, Gary, when you said we're in this together, because we are. And if we can focus on that, what a different world we'd have, right? I mean, if that was our focus.
Very much.
I try to. With some people, you have to wonder. With some politicians, oh my goodness. But you have to step back and then see them in a different light. Can help. Mm. But anyway, thank you, Mary, and thank you,
You're
Gary.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Mary.
I'm going to go back to listening now. Bye.
Thanks for calling, Mary.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So, Gwen, have you heard from any readers who have told their own stories or said that you helped them out in some way, or is that just kind of they're out there and we have to believe in them and wish them luck without necessarily hearing?
Yes, actually, I have heard from some, and it's very heartening when I pause to read reviews because the book has obviously touched a number of people deeply. And, it's curious. When I was writing, I didn't know what to say or not to say about some experiences that were spiritual experiences, because those kind of encounters we normally, or I anyway, keep to myself. And I did it. I decided to share because this is who I am. It was very important to me to share who I am, not in the sense of degrees or care less, but important to share my heart. And that is what I put into the book. And I kind of just opened it up for myself. This is how I experienced it. Opened up my own heart and let it be for others. Because when we can open up our hearts before, bring that innocence to another person, it sort of takes down the barriers. And we can then see ourselves better. So if we're with someone talking like we're doing right now, and we just let go of whatever, the boundaries or whatever, just let it go, we tend to find ourselves at a deeper level. And that is what I wanted to do with this book, and feel that I achieved to certain degrees. And I don't know that I don't take credit for that as much as I realized I learned how to open my heart. And that is the achievement. And then to capture what it meant and how to disentangle the heart so that it can beat freely, that was the journey. So anyway, thank you for letting me talk about that. I appreciate it.
Now, you have an audio book that also goes with this book that you produced yourself a couple of years back, and Gwen is the reader. So listeners, if you want to hear Gwen actually read the book, go check out that audio book that's on Amazon as well. And I believe we have a brief sample of that, don't we, Beem?
Yes, we do. And when we get done with this, we have another caller lined up, too. So,
all right.
Here we go.
Within a week of returning to campus, I walked out the upstairs back door of my office building and noticed a student sitting on the high stone staircase, inching closer to the edge. As I slowly approached him, I spoke calmly and quietly. When I reached his side, I asked him why he was sitting there. "I want to hurt myself," he said with a vacant smile as he looked far below to the patio. "I wonder what it would feel like. Would there be a lot of pain?" "I think there would be considerable pain, but maybe much worse than just pain. You could be permanently disabled, or you could die," I said. "Why would you want to hurt yourself?" "I need to punish myself," he said matter-of-factly. "I'm a disgrace to my family." "I'm sure you're not a disgrace," I said. "I have 4 children. 2 of them are around your age. No matter what my kids might do, I would never want them to hurt themselves. Your parents feel the same about you." The student disagreed and explained that he had gotten a lower grade on a test than he expected. He wanted to punish himself so that he would never make that mistake again. We talked a bit more, and then he agreed to go with me to the health center where he could get supportive counseling.
And there you go. So that's
Powerful.
a sample of the audio book as read by the author.
Available on Amazon.
Yeah. Let's go to the phone here and see who we got on the line here. Hello, caller. You're on the air. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, Beem.
Hello.
Hi.
Who's that?
Hello, hi. This is Phil Lipper. I'm calling you from Coral, Michigan.
Hi,
hi,
Phil.
Phil.
Hi. I've been listening. Yeah, this is great. Gwen, first of all, congratulations on your publishing success here. I'm sorry to say I haven't read your work yet, but I'm actually looking forward to it. It's from the conversation, I can tell it's something of some real depth, and man, we need that in the world.
Yes,
Boy,
we
don't
do.
Well, that's kind of you to say. Thank you.
I did have a question about something that you said a minute ago. I wonder if you could clarify it a little bit. You were talking
Sure.
about being victimized, but also being, it sounded like you were saying, partially responsible for being a victim. Did I misunderstand?
Yes, but when I said it, it wasn't clear. Let me clarify what I meant. I don't like using the word victim myself, but yes, I was a victim. The thing is, there were choices made throughout. The choices of staying in that relationship, and at a point, I lost that ability to even make a choice. So you're almost not the person. But then you get to a point where, through processes and growth, that then you can see things more clearly and have the ability to step out. So the victimization, it's undeniable. One person in this situation was victimized.
Okay.
I think I said something like contribute, but the contribute part was more that I wasn't taking steps that a person on the outside would see the logical thing to do, but I psychologically of that logic. You see what I mean?
Right. I know exactly what you mean. That's that's part of the whole syndrome there, the whole abuse thing.
Yeah.
You just lose that ability to. It almost sounded like you were saying that the victim is partially responsible for being a victim. I said she couldn't possibly have meant that. And if it sounded like that to me, perhaps it did to somebody else. And I really wanted to clarify that because.
Well, thank you.
What you're saying here
much.
makes so much sense, and it it's just kind of no nonsense, irrefutable, type of. There's in this genre, there's a lot of fluff out there, and obviously you're not, you're way above and beyond that. I'm just impressed with the depth of what you've had to say here tonight, and glad I got a chance to talk to you. I'm looking forward to reading your work.
Very, very much. I appreciate that.
Thanks for calling in, Phil.
You bet. Good night, guys.
Thanks, Phil.
I'm very glad that he brought that question forward so it could be clarified. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, it's
I think there's a lot of people that are in that boat, what you're describing too. And again, this is, as they're reading this, you're kind of telling their story as well. And having clarification is always a good thing. So.
Yeah, and the truth is, any person who's trapped in a situation like that is making choices, even if it doesn't feel like there are choices to be made. It's still, every day you're making choices, even if it's to suffer through another day or to try to find that path of least resistance or whatever. So everybody is participating without necessarily deserving any blame because you're trapped. You're trapped and you're just trying to survive sometimes and doing what you need to do. And until you reach the point, like in the case with Glenn, where you start to see there is a better path and there is better choices and there is a way to make this work.
I was speaking with a woman, just about a week ago, and she was sharing some things, pretty deep things that had gone on. And basically it's this, that she was in a very bad relationship and she no longer could feel. She was effectively dead inside. And in the book, I think I even referred to it there, but certainly my experience was that I became like a mannequin. I went through the motions of life. But this woman and me both had the same experience, that it was our children who woke us up. When I came home that one day, which I describe in there, and my son was being beaten, everything changed right then.
Oh, man.
It took something like that to jar me so deeply that I was awakened. And for my friend that shared her story, it also was her son that she described that woke her up. And so it's a hard thing to understand if it's a long-term kind of situation and the person kind of disappears. Or in my case, as I said, I felt like I was a mannequin. I wasn't self-reflective about that, but looking back, it's like I was a mannequin. It's like the time didn't exist. But it's a
You hear that from a lot of people that they're just kind of not there, even though their body's there, they're just not there.
Yeah, because something so core. I had this experience just a week ago. I'm with a small group of writers called Story Empire Writers, and they're just extraordinary writers and friends. And it was my time to put a post up, and I chose to do it in terms of what we can learn from old photographs and to help us to conceptualize a story. And one of the photographs I used, because it shocked me, was a picture of me when I was 24 years old. And I'm very familiar with this picture. I've seen it dozens of times. I know exactly where I was standing in Japan in front of this house and the whole works. The thing is, as I looked at this young woman, who is me, I didn't know her. I honestly had to focus on it and realize I don't know her.
I can relate.
Yeah, I absolutely do not know her. It was such a strange experience for me that's why I brought it into my post to show the time, how time changes us and how we perceive changes. And so I used that one photograph and two others that had similar impact on me for different reasons. But this was the first time that I actually saw it myself, in my young self of 24, that I was not there. I did not know her. I don't have an idea in my head what in the world she even thought, you know? That's bizarre. So for people, you know, I'm sorry, go ahead, Beem.
I was just going to say, I mean, that's you know, there's just so many things going through my mind right now, because we always have that core thought that you only get one life to live, and that's not necessarily true. As you just said, time changes you. Well, time and circumstances and experiences change us. I'm nowhere near the person I was when I was 15 years old or 20 years old or 30 years old or even 40 years old. I'm not the same person. We change as we grow and we mature. We look back, we see the things that we did wrong, and we know that, okay, through maturity and through growing, and some of us through therapy, we kind of understand why those aren't things that are good for your life. These are things but you can still learn from them, and you can still teach others based on those things. Looking back, you're talking about looking at the picture. I have photo albums in here, and every so often I'll go through those pictures, and I'll see me back in my 20s with the real long hair and smoking a cigarette and partying with friends, and it's like that's not me anymore. I don't have the long hair anymore. I don't smoke. I haven't smoked in 20 odd years, but I'm looking at that, and it's like a whole different person. I can remember the memory, but it just seems like when I think of those memories, I'm watching this other guy kind of from the outside and thinking, well, that's not me. That was somebody else, but it wasn't.
Exactly. Oh, I totally relate. Yes.
Now, Gwen, when we talked about doing this republish, we needed to do a new cover for it, but we stayed very close to the original cover, and the main point there was that it was very important for you to have that pair of wings on there. What does those wings mean? Where did that idea come from? Why were the wings so important?
Well, this is one of those spiritual experiences which, I'm sometimes hesitant to talk about, but the actual experience was that was a bad episode, and I had lost consciousness. And when I awakened, I had an angel wrapped with his arms around me, being held in love. Absolute, complete, head to toe love. And the first thought that went through my mind was, gee, angels have wings, because I could see the wings. And I had often imagined that angels wouldn't have wings, even though they're in books and you see images drawn with wings. But this experience was definitely with wings. So because of the power of this encounter, it's something that stayed with me always. It certainly has taught me that we are never, ever, ever, ever alone. So we have these celestial beings close by us always. But anyway, because of the power of it, I wanted it on the book. I wanted the wings there as a sign of hope, as a sign of the love that ultimately we are drawn to. That was why it was important to me.
Well, it's a powerful image, definitely.
Very, very powerful. Well, we're starting to get low on time here. Gwen, you do have a trilogy, which is out there, and we have a commercial. If you want to run that real quick, Beem, then we can see if we can sell some other books as well.
All right.
Best-selling author Gwen M. Plano presents The Culmination, A New Beginning, the final book in the Contracts thriller series. In the first book, co-penned by best-selling author John W. Howell, the Earth is threatened with a catastrophic event, and Heaven's leadership intervenes with extraordinary measures to ensure the survival of the planet. In Book 2, The Choice, a confidential team uncovers a traitorous conspiracy that has as its goal world domination. The pressing question is, who can be trusted and who cannot? The Culmination, A New Beginning brings the Contract thriller trilogy to a close. After an assassination attempt on an Air Force base in Northern California, tensions mount. Heads of state meet to craft a denuclearization agreement. The meetings between these nuclear powers take a murderous turn. A nefarious conspiracy reemerges and leads the characters into the heart of the Middle East, where they encounter the unexpected and find a reason for hope. Grab your copy now of The Culmination, A New Beginning by Gwen M. Plano. Available worldwide in hardcover, paperback, and all major ebook formats. The Culmination is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group.
Right. Now, the first one, co-authored by John W. Howell, where did this idea come from?
I actually had repeated dreams that became more like morning conversations. It was really strong that I needed to write this. However, I had never written a thriller, and John and I had worked together on Blog Talk Radio, and so one day I actually summoned enough courage to ask if he'd write with me. And to my total surprise and relief, he said he would. So that began a friendship which ended up with the book. And then I went on. He helped with the choice, too. Even though he didn't finish it, he went off to do his other book. And then with Culmination, he at least worked and provided some beta read for me. So he's a friend that I've turned to many times. And I have to say the Culmination is not the last, even though I thought it might be, but probably early, around maybe June, I'll have the final book, and it truly is the final. the calls for freedom, and it's the first draft is done. It's just that a first draft, so there's still work to be done.
Was that the title? The title you just leaked? Calls for Freedom?
Yes, the Call for Freedom. Yes.
The Call for Freedom.
All right.
And I'll let you in on a little piece with it. The piece really is that ultimately it's our responsibility, each one of us. So it depends. That freedom depends on all of us. But anyway, I'll leave it at that because I won't share more.
Well, Gwen, how can people find you out there? Website, Twitter handle, Facebook, standing down there in the park in Branson?
Definitely, you can find me through Twitter at GM Plano. You can find me on the web and my website, www.gwenplano.com. And, oh goodness, the other usuals, although I don't frequent Facebook that much, and LinkedIn very rarely, but I do go there. But you can also find me on Story Empire, because I'm there as well. And that's about it.
Well, of course, there's the big one at freshinggroup.com. Someone clicks on the members tab. They will see the Gwen M. Plano picture, and you can click on that and go to her page where her books and reviews and all kinds of fun things are, as well as her videos. So, Gwen, we really appreciate having you back on the show again, and we want to thank our callers, Mary Adler and Phil Lippert, and everybody who was following along on Twitter this week. It's been an interesting show. It was terrific to have this opportunity to talk in more detail about Letting Go into Perfect Love by Gwendolyn M. Plano, because we had talked about it previously, but we kind of rushed through it so that we could talk about all the other books that Gwen has penned as well. So again, thanks for coming, and we really appreciate this.
Oh, I'm so pleased I could be here, and I really thank the callers. I so appreciated hearing from both Mary and Phil. So thank you all.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking time out to join us too tonight, Gwen. We really appreciate that. Yeah, like Stephen was just saying, taking this opportunity to talk a little more about this particular book, this memoir, because I think that's a deeper subject. It's a deeper topic, and I'm not trying to say that all of our guests, none of them have deep topics. It's all important to them, but this is one of these things that's just really important to a lot of people, I think. So it was nice to be able to get in there and talk more about
Definitely.
that.
So, Beem, where can people find this show if they want to hear it again or send somebody else to listen to it?
If you missed it or you missed any of our shows, you can find us on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in Fresh Ink Group, and you will find our channel. And while you're there, please remember to hit the subscribe button and thumbs up on any of these episodes that you do listen to. That helps us out. FreshInkGroup.com, go over there and hit the podcast button. BeamWeeks.com, go over there and hit the podcast button. And StephenG's.com, go over there and hit the podcast button. And we are also now on Spotify. So just go to Spotify, open up your app, or however you get to Spotify, and type in Voice of Indie, all one word, and every episode will pop up for your perusal. So there you go.
Now, we are putting a lot of effort into keeping these shows out there active. Our marketing guy is hashtagging and keywording and categorizing and throwing SEO at it and doing everything that he can so that we can build a library of these shows where when people go out looking for their favorite authors, these shows will pop up on their Google searches or whatever search engine they use, and they can discover that there are interviews existing with some of their favorite people. So if you've been a guest on our show, don't be bashful about going out there and putting it on social media with a link to the episode that you were in. That way people will hear about it. Or if you see us out there like on Twitter or other places promoting some of those older shows, give us a retweet and help spread the word. Because like I say, over time, we would like to continue to build an audience even for the older episodes for years to come.
Yeah, definitely. This is, like Stephen just said, it's building an audience, and you're part of that audience. You can help us build this and, watch this thing kind of grow. And if you want to find us on Twitter, go to Fresh Ink Group. That's at Fresh Ink Group on Twitter. And also for this program, at Voice of Indie. And you can find us on Instagram at Fresh Ink Group and at FIG Publishing, at Fig Publishing. You can also find us at Voice of Indie on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Find us at Fresh Ink Group LLC and Fresh Ink Group Kids for the kids' books and the authors that write those books, and Indie Books and Trailers. That's another page that we have, and you can also go to StephenGees.com and at StephenGees on Twitter. And also, don't forget G's Writer. G's Writer is out there, too. If you want some really cool writing instruction or just to brush up on something, go over to G'sWriter.com.
Yeah, G'sWriter.com has a lot of writers experts on there, too, like Lizzie Chantry and Harmony Kent, and some of the best in the world are on there, and they've got their own pages, and you can go over there and find out more about them and their books and their writer helpful stuff as well. That's G'sWriter.com. So, as we wrap up here, I want to remind everybody we do have more exciting guests. If after Gwen Plano, that's kind of a hard act to follow, but next week we have B.A. Johnson, who's the author of the children's book, Sassy Discovers the AME Church. Barbara's a fascinating lady. She's got some wonderful ideas about helping young people learn how to find their spiritual selves and develop their identity. The week after that, I'm going to be out west, so Beem is going to host by himself, and let's hope it doesn't drop off the air again. And he's going to interview.
I will call in prior to that, so I will have my phone there just in case that happens.
Good, so you'll have a backup line. But he's going to interview the band Wide Track, which is primarily Ron Tippin and his teenage son Zach Tippin. Those are a couple of fascinating fellows. Week after that, on the 28th, we're going to have Kanoi Kay, a Hawaiian woman who's living in Florida now, and she's written about her life traveling the world with her family, doing a Polynesian review. After that, we've got Phil Lippert, Crimes and the People Who Committed Them, and then on May 12th, science fiction, Cold War thriller, and you name it author Robert G. Williscroft will be our guest. So please help us spread the word. And when you see those announcements, retweet them and tell everybody you know.
So definitely you're going to want to tune in for all of those shows. And we got even more coming down the line that it's going to knock your socks out. So once again, thank you, Gwen, for joining us tonight and taking a little time out of your evening.
It was very much my pleasure, and I thank you very much.
Thanks, Gwen. And we are definitely looking forward to that fourth book in your Heaven and Earth series.
Yes, we are. And thank you to everybody who called in and who listened and who participated. All of you are appreciated. So we will see you again next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
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 You've been a part of Voice of Indie, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests, then find us at FreshInkGroup.com and be sure to hashtag Fresh Ink Group.